Welcome to The Curve Weekly, the podcast that keeps you up to date with all of the money, business and stock market tea.
Brought to you by the Curve's research team. It's the latest insights on what's happening in the stock market, companies, other money-related news so that you can stay educated and ahead of the curve.
You can thank us later for sounding smarter than those finance bros at your next dinner party.
Yeah. There's been some...
Breathe in, breathe out.
Actually, yeah, let's do a collective. Okay. It's been a week for everybody, particularly women all over the world. I think it's been... We didn't put up our Raising the Curve episode last week because it was the day that Donald Trump became the president of the United States, and we all just thought, you know what?
There's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, we just need to pause. So we've actually invited Dani to join us for the Curve Weekly today.
And she's dressed as women's rights in black death.
Yes, the absence of colour and joy.
Yeah, we actually had a work meeting with a brand that we're working with over here in the UK, and there was 6 of us having a drink the day that it happened. There was something kind of lovely about feeling brought together by women in that moment. I don't know if you guys felt that. Like it was terrifying. And when I got home, I think it kind of hit me and I got really upset. But in that moment, talking to educated women who had things to say, who had been following the election, who felt different things, I found it in a strange way quite empowering.
I'm just like exhausted, you know, like you constantly are fighting to progress women in all elements, like not just financial, but just like, and it's just when you have such a setback like this, it's just, you're like, when do I give up? You know, it's like, it's, you fight and fight and fight and fight. And then there's this monumentous thing that could have really changed the narrative in a positive way for women going forward. And it's just like, you know, it's like, when do you give up?
Based on what we do, for example, and every single day we have these conversations about the place in the world for females and the power that we can get through education. It's one of those moments where I'm so impressed by the female response to it, even in such loss and devastation of what could have been, the softness of the reaction. And by that I don't mean, you know, people haven't been angry, but I mean the reaction has been, no, we don't give up, we do keep going, and this won't change us, and this won't break it, you know. Yeah. And I think that that's such a female energy, because a man, I imagine, would be angrier and sort of more pointed with everything and sort of lashing out, but women are like, okay, we keep going.
Yeah, we've fought this hard, we can fight for another 4 years.
It's unlikely that we will see huge amounts of change in the next 10 years, but it doesn't mean that the small incremental steps we're taking are irrelevant.
I think what it's made me feel is so proud and grateful and connected to my ancestors and to all the women that came before me. Like, to think that there was a time not that long ago that we couldn't even vote blows my mind. Imagine how frustrating that would have been for them. Imagine, you know, and this is our fight right now. This is time for us to step up and come together and not lose hope and not lose the power that we do have, and realize how important our voices are. And I don't know, I think in a way it made me reflect on my grandmothers and the fact that, you know, we write all the time about how women weren't able to even get a credit card without their husband's signature. That was my grandma that wasn't able to do that. And it's just, from there we've come so far. And I think almost up until this moment, there was this false sense of how far we've come. And I think that the result of the election has been a real slap down to reality of how far we still have to go. Yeah. But if anything, I think it's given me more fire up my, I was going to say my bum, but that's not what I'm looking for. Fire in my belly to keep going, because yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating and it's so exhausting and it's so sad. And you know, I think it's fine if people are feeling that way and they want to just take a minute to feel really sorry for themselves and actually just not give up, but temporarily just like take their foot off the accelerator. But remember how far we've come in the last 500 years and how proud our grandchildren will be when they look back at this time of us continuing to push forward. We have to. And it's not just for us or our generation, it's for everyone to come. And I think what for me has been the most heartbreaking is, I think, definitely from a environmental standpoint and the interconnectedness of what is happening in the stock market, which obviously we'll get into in a second. But yesterday we had a team meeting with our pension provider, and it was...
Sophie was in the dog bed cuddling the dog. I was like, we need to know this because we are business owners and we have staff, but also we're financial educators. And she's like, I'm tapped out.
But I think what kind of hit me, and I'd been thinking about women's rights, trans rights, all of the human rights elements, that I hadn't really connected the financial dots. And when we were looking at the way that our pension, so this is like a KiwiSaver Super 401k, it's the retirement that our company and employees are all in. When I was looking at it, Tom, actually, our financial director, was like, oh, there's lots of ESG, like lots of environmental funds that we're invested in. And the guy that was doing the presentation made some comment about how, that's all going to be divested. Can you explain it?
Yeah. No, so we were just making an observation that there was a lot invested in ESG and the performance had been great, and whether that performance would continue going forward. Yeah, it's interesting to see already the dynamic playing out of people making a lot of money from investing in oil and gas.
It's a perfect example of, but that's fine because we're in it for the long game.
Yeah.
And we don't plan on using this money for the next 30 years. And it's for something that's very far down the line. And with the fluctuations of the results from the election, the panic that people would have, it's almost good that we can't get into it.
Yeah.
It's good that we can't access this, you know?
And it's only 4 years in the scheme of things. We're going to be invested for 30. Do you know?
That's
It's so
such
short
a
term.
good reminder.
It's like, don't feel like our previous episode on the election, don't do anything. You know, you can be clued up with what's going on and the impacts that Trump is having on the stock market, but you don't have to do anything. Yeah.
How did everyone here, if you're being really honest, did anyone decide to invest in something different, to put money somewhere that they hadn't planned on?
In order to make gains from the economic shift?
Yeah, well, I mean, like for a lot of people who are like, what are you talking about? I guess, you know, whether it be Bitcoin, because Trump's a massive Bitcoin supporter, whether it's oil and gas, the fact that we knew that was going to go up if he was in power. Did either of you invest in things based on that?
No, because I'm a long-term investor.
Yes, that answer, because that's a good one. But I just couldn't ethically do it. There were moments, and Vic and I were speaking about this earlier, and there were moments where we could see what was going to happen in the market. And you know, if you read his policies, it was pretty laid out in front of us that oil and gas was going to skyrocket. But that just wasn't enough for me to want to put money in it, because it would have felt like the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. Also, his company, Trump Media, within that company, Trump Media, is his social media platform. So everyone's like, well, he's in power. He's going to be all over that. People are going to be watching it. People are going to be using it. So, of course, it's going to do well. But it's also a question of where do you draw the line? Because for me, it's like I would never invest in Trump Media because he's a direct beneficiary and I'm so far away from his values and what he believes. So I would never invest in that. But yet I invest in Tesla. And Elon Musk is one of Trump's biggest allies now. So, but I didn't think to draw the line there. So it's like, where do you draw the line? You know, Tesla's done fantastically well. But on that, I also invest in Tesla because of
the product
and the necessity that we need those products in order to reduce carbon emissions. So, but then I'm sitting there going, I want to divest my shares in Tesla because of who's running the company. But then I'm also in this dichotomy of, but I also want to support the company that's going to bring about change for the planet. So it's just like,
So what are you going to do?
I've just left it. Yeah.
Because you're going to let this cool off. Yeah. And then you'll be looking at that in 6 months' time and say, no, I do believe in the products that are being created and the good that they're bringing to the world.
But I feel guilty. I feel more guilty than I did a few months ago. And that's like, it's a funny thing to sit with because...
Is there one that you could you pull those out and put it into a competitor stock that arguably might not do as well but is still creating good for the world?
Yeah. Yeah, good. But it's just like, I guess, a classic example of investing in alignment with your values, and that can change when the world changes. And what is the kind of the tipping point for you?
But I think it can even be the idea of like investing full stop. I feel really disempowered and like unexcited by the S&P 500, the entire US economy. I don't really want to have anything to do with. Like, I feel really extreme about it. For me, it's not just a company or Trump media. It's the whole idea of investing. I feel off in general.
Why is that?
I just feel disappointed in everything. In normal circumstances, if the US economy was doing really well and the S&P 500 was going up, there would be things I would feel excited about, or I would understand it. The fact that it's all just aligned with him and what he represents, for me, is just shitty.
But it's not all just aligned with him. And I think that it's important to remember that there's sections of the S&P 500 that will be directly in line with his values, but there's massive sections that aren't.
Yeah.
And there could be I haven't counted, I haven't done this research, but 450 companies, say, in the S&P 500 that are doing good things, are employing hundreds of thousands of people, are bringing dollars into the economy in a positive way. And by not supporting the S&P 500 based on the minority of companies that support the ideals of Trump and his policies, I think you're doing a disservice to all of the good companies.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really needed to hear that.
Yeah, I feel like a blanket statement of like, I don't want to invest in the S&P 500 is...
Look, we all know I'm a bit extreme.
Yeah.
It's a time to be extreme. We're allowed to feel extreme for the next few days.
Yeah.
Vic, I would love to go through some of the other things we saw happen in the stock market, particular companies. Is there anything of note that you saw over the last, few days and the last week from the election that's worth highlighting for people?
When Trump got into power, the top billionaires in the world became $64 billion richer.
Woohoo! That is just what we needed. Love that for them.
Yeah. And Elon Musk alone, no wonder he was by Trump's side telling people to give them $1 million if they voted. Like, he made $26 billion in one day. Like, what a great return on investment.
That's a solid ROI, yep.
Yeah. I'd be giving people $1 million if I was going to make $26 billion. Jeff Bezos made $7 billion. Mark Zuckerberg actually declined based on the fact that he's the majority shareholder of Meta, and Meta is a social media platform, and Trump Media is a social media platform.
Got it.
So Trump Media doing well means that investors are thinking that Meta's not going to do as well.
Oh, darling.
I know.
Okay?
He lost about $90 million, so he's only got $200 billion.
Do you know what's weird? I'm like, never thought I'd see the day that I wanted to go and be like, go, Mark.
Yeah.
Go get it, boy.
Yeah.
The best
I'm going to
of a bad
invest in
bunch.
Meta. Yeah. Bitcoin's gone to 76,000.
Is that almost like an all-time high?
Yeah, all-time highs. People are thinking it's going to go to 100,000 pretty shortly. And that's all because Trump's like, we want to make the US the crypto capital of the world. He'll probably remove restrictions, regulations, make it much more easy to use crypto. And so everyone is like, woohoo, let's invest in crypto.
To be honest, I'm kind of okay with that. I don't mind if crypto's doing well because of Trump. That doesn't stress me out.
The S&P 500 does, but crypto doesn't?
I think, and it is actually really counterintuitive, because if you know and you understand that crypto uses a shitload of energy, it's actually also not great for the environment. I think my main issue is drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Sorry.
Stop singing it like it's a good thing. She did this yesterday. It really annoys me.
It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
No.
Sorry.
You know what? I don't really know much about crypto. It's such a black hole for me. It's not, I don't invest in it. I've never really done much research in it.
We have a great episode on that, actually. Gosh, It was back in the day.
Do we need to check it was still good before we recommend people go listen? I'm like...
It was the founder from Easy Crypto.
Yeah, Janine.
Janine.
Oh my God, it was raising the curve 21. Is cryptocurrency something you should be investing in? It was actually really good, because she broke down exactly how it works. And what else is happening?
The thing with Trump is that he is, and I think this is the reason he got most of the votes, to be honest, is that he is all about America first. And that means protectionism. That means let's protect our country, let's grow our country, and who cares at the detriment of Europe, China, whoever else. And so Europe and China are kind of freaking out, going, oh gosh, he's going to slap tariffs on European import, making it harder for European companies to be competitive in America.
So if that happens, Vic, what effect would that have on the European economy?
Inflation. So everyone's kind of freaking out going, we've just got inflation under control in most countries around the world. And here he is being like, let's slap taxes on everything to make everything more expensive.
And if that happened, would we be suggesting quietly that people are benefiting from that by, the use of term deposits and having an extra interest in savings accounts?
I thought if inflation's high, you're better to invest in the stock market and more high risk, high return things rather than term deposits and keeping it in the bank.
Well, it depends what interest rates do. So if the way to curb inflation and keep that under control is to increase interest rates. So you are...
Well, slow down. The way to curb inflation is to increase interest rates. Oh, and when interest rates are high,
term deposits do well.
Okay.
Yeah. And the stock market tends to not do well. I mean, it's so hard to know what will happen, but there's been a lot of headlines being like, oh gosh, we're going to go back into a high inflation era, and everyone's just like, no.
Remember when inflation was just never discussed?
I don't think many people outside of the finance industry would have known what inflation was until 4 years ago, just because it wasn't talked about. Now it's just part of everyone's conversation.
Yeah. But it should be talked about.
Look, if anyone wants to see what inflation looks like, you can watch our October special. Inflation made a appearance in our podcast episode.
Which one?
You.
Oh, me!
Jesus, that took a while.
I was literally inflation.
Yeah, it was we were trying to make inflation. No, we were trying to make investing not scary. That was the whole premise.
So Soph was like, how about we dress Vic up as inflation?
Didn't run the idea past her.
Yes.
What else is happening?
There has been some other big moves in the stock market, and that is Nvidia. Now, this company has become the biggest company on the US stock market.
Nvidia, when you first talked about this, I remember thinking, what a stupid name. And also, it's so classic that it's hard to hear. Now, when I hear Nvidia, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Now, and I always spell
like
it
my
wrong.
high school friend.
Nvidia?
I think it's actually
Nvidia, right?
Yeah.
Nvidia. Before we get
Nvidia.
It's like I before D except after A, that
We
whole...
should say every time we talk about it.
God damn, I was going to invest in that 6 months ago and I didn't. I don't have anything in Nvidia at all.
Oh, really?
I am
S&P 500.
salty. Okay, yeah, that I have a portion of it, but I
Yeah.
think the fund that I'm invested in the S&P 500, it's only 4 or 5%. Like, it's not a majority.
Well, I personally think we've only scratched the surface of AI. So I think you've got plenty more years.
Nvidia.
Nvidia.
I think every time we talk about it, we should just do that.
But anyway, it is now a $3.6 trillion company. And it's Apple who previously held the title, and Apple's got 3.4 trillion.
Wait, hold on. It's a bigger company than Apple
Yeah.
now.
It's a bigger company than any company in America.
Any company, yeah.
Gosh, that's happened quickly.
Yeah. Obviously because of the AI boom. It's up 222% this year.
Wow.
I think I'm going to do Nvidia. Like just even not a lot, but because I agree, I don't think the AI boom is.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to boom.
It does scare me investing in things that have done so well. Like this is uncommon. I can't remember many other times that I've seen a company do this well in such a short space of time.
But then also we're in a different age.
Exactly.
This is the dawn of something else, and I guess it's the same as when we started having computers and tech products, in the early 90s. Might want to fact check that
Yes.
time.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, I remember my first use of a Mac. It was at
yay high.
Yeah, it was the school IT room. We had IT rooms full of computers. Do you remember? No.
But when it started moving quickly, people would have said the same thing. They would have
Yeah.
gone, oh, I don't trust tech that moves this quickly. And look where we are now.
Imagine investing in Apple then.
Oh, don't.
1980.
Everyone says that.
Sorry,
Like, if you
I
had
know.
$1,000 in
I know.
Apple, it'd be worth. I'm like,
I know. You're like,
well, I
didn't,
don't.
So
I was 4.
tell me what the next Apple will be, and then I'll be
But
thankful.
maybe it's Nvidia.
But anyway, the reason, so Nvidia has gone up and Apple has kind of stagnated or gone down a bit. And that's all because Warren Buffett has sold a lot of his stake. So he had about 900 million shares. He sold about 400 million.
In what?
In Apple. So that's put pressure on the share price.
Why has he done that?
He's owned it for a while and he's done very, very well out of it. But that is the question. Why is he now sitting on $300 billion of cash in his investment company, the most he's ever sat on? What can he see that we can't see?
Wait, so he's got the most in cash than he's ever had ever.
Yeah.
But maybe he's about to make a big investment.
Yeah.
Or he's waiting to see what the market does post-election.
Or he's like, you know what, the market's done really well and I'm scared about the next 5-10 years.
So the knock-on effect, though, presumably would be other people following suit there.
Yeah.
People who like avidly follow King Buffett.
King Buffett.
King Buffett loved it.
They will then try and replicate this move, right?
Oh, and also that is a lot of shares to sell for people to buy. So it's like you've got 100 buyers lined up to buy Apple shares that are continuing to increase the price because they're like, I'm going to pay higher than you and higher than you and higher than you. You get a massive seller come in, it wipes out all those people that were wanting to buy. So it puts like downward
it's like a wait
pressure
list on a product. All of a sudden everyone's got it.
Yeah.
So now there's no wait list.
So yes, you need a whole wave of new sellers to come in to buy those shares. Like that's a big seller. That's a big amount that Warren Buffett is selling.
So if he's sold that now and the share price has dipped because of that, now would be a good time to buy it if you're planning on holding it for a really long time because it's probably lower than it will be.
Why is one of the best investors in the world selling Apple? Or selling a whole lot of companies and sitting on $300 billion of cash. That would be the more...
What else has he sold?
He had a big stake in Bank of America. He's still got American Express and Coca-Cola. Those are his two big holdings. But also he's like, when he buys, he buys. You know, he can't really fly under the radar.
Why on earth is he holding so much Coca-Cola? I'm really judging him for that.
I knew
Why?
you would.
Why would he hold so much Coca-Cola?
Why are you judging him for that?
What a shitty thing to be investing in.
Well, he's done well out of it.
Yes, but we're not just looking for returns. Like, that shit has given... Imagine how many fillings Coca-Cola has given.
Why not American Express?
American Express isn't probably giving people diabetes.
But it's putting people in debt.
That's a good point.
I love, I don't mean to...
The moral dilemma.
No,
but
it's
like,
good.
honestly, every company has a moral dilemma.
That's why I'm off investing in general.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But while you're off investing, you're not going to pull it out, right? You're just going to walk away?
I'm giving myself a minute to recalibrate. That's what's happening.
Everyone's got different values, different ethics, and mine not be the same as Dani's might not be the same as yours, but that's okay. I guess another example of that, and I feel like this whole episode has been on kind of investing in ethics and values, but it's good because it's a debate and it needs to be had. And another one is Amazon. So Amazon had a really great result. It's up 50% this year, yet it has increased its CO2 emissions.
I was going to say that's exactly why I don't invest in Amazon.
Transport represents 30% of global emissions. So, and Amazon's one of the biggest players in transportation and logistics. So,
And that's because 30 seconds later it's shown up at your door.
So we're all part of the problem.
Can you speak to why ethically you decided not to invest in Amazon? I'm interested to know.
Well, I guess by proxy I kind of am because I'm invested in the S&P 500. So there will be a percentage of Amazon in my fund. But it was during COVID when everything just started appearing 2 hours later, an hour later, and I just watched this mass consumption. Obviously, it had happened before, but it was quite stark because there was no one on the streets. All you could see was delivery guys, right? And it was just hearing neighbours every day, packages that we didn't need. We just were bored, and then seeing all of the waste build up and all of the instant gratification that just dialed up during COVID, something felt really off to me. And then, Jeff Bezos massively profiting from one of the worst things to happen was too much for me.
Well, on the delivery vans thing, that increased nearly 200%. From 2019 to 2023.
And there were elements of that which, great, there were people still able to work, there were people able to sort of still have an income, feed their families through that system during COVID, but all it did was allow him to double down on that. And he hasn't passed any of that on to the workers. They haven't had wage increases based on that.
And Amazon's come out and said, well, we're going to invest in 120,000 electric vehicles, but that's only about less than 30% of their fleet. And that's going to reduce carbon emissions by about 1%. But then from that argument is that we can't produce enough electric vehicles to cater for them to switch over their entire fleet. So therefore we need to invest in Tesla, and therefore we need to support people like Elon Musk. And it's exhausting.
It's just not good enough. They've got too much money to not be doing better.
Yeah.
There's just no excuses in my opinion. Like 1%. Yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
If they really want to change the amount of emissions that they're producing and they have enough money to pay for it.
But what? They buy another 300,000 electric vehicles. There's not that many, they can't produce that many electric vehicles.
They go to the other brands, not just Tesla.
But they can't. Tesla's the biggest producer and it can't even keep up with production.
They should invest or give money to the electric vehicle companies so they can produce enough. They've got the funds to make it happen.
Something tells me Jeff Bezos isn't really in the market for helping other brands.
To help people prosper.
Should we move on from this? Because I know that even before we started recording, all of us had a little chat about how the collective energy and morale is reasonably low right now. And what we've done is probably not help that. So is there other headlines or things that we can talk about that they don't have to be positive, but just can we just move on from oil and gas, the Bezoses of the world?
Burberry is a company that hasn't actually done well for a very long time. It's one of the only luxury names that hasn't really done that well. And its share price jumped last week because there is rumours that Moncler is going to buy Burberry.
How the hell do these rumours get out? That's my most burning question.
Yeah, it's definitely an organised leak.
Oh, surely.
What's that movie, 13 going on 30?
Oh, yeah, I love that film.
And she's secretly leaking to the competitor magazine
Oh
and
my
probably getting paid for
God.
it. Like, there'll be CFOs there or like CEOs that are like,
I love that reference.
I
love
know. I'm
things.
so grateful that you used a reference. I know. Brings a bit of joy to my heart.
That's exciting though.
I mean, Burberry's share price has been down about 50% this year. This is a really good example of companies become targets when their share price doesn't do very well. There's not only a necessity for your share price to continue to do well so that investors are happy. It's so that you're not prey.
When
you're
you say
not,
target, what do you mean?
I mean, like when your share price is on its knees, which I love, no, Soph loves that terminology.
It's just so masculine.
It's
Don't you hate it? Like this on its knees. I'm like, ooh. Okay, let's use another
oh my God,
one.
I didn't even think of...
No, okay, so it's... So let's imagine that Burberry is a little piece of bait floating around in the ocean. Moncler is a giant shark that's about to come and eat it. It's the idea that it could be swallowed up by another big competitor.
It's like vulnerable company, kind of lost its way, doesn't really know what it's doing, its share price is down. Then you get this big company that's done really well, got a lot of cash, and it's like, you know what, we're going to pounce. Yeah.
And so that's currently potentially happening with Burberry.
Yeah. So this is why companies need to keep increasing their share price, because otherwise you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork. And shareholders will be unhappy with the terrible share price performance. And they'll be going, yeah, we'll sell to Moncler. And it's totally outside of the management and board's control.
Oh,
And
so the idea is that Burberry might not want to sell. They might not want to be
But all
eaten up.
investors are like, we're sick of your terrible performance. So
I'll
we're going to
sell.
take this offer.
Okay, we need to end on a positive note. Has anyone got anything?
You know, we've been talking about it a lot in the office the last couple of days, and I think it's just a nice message to send people that regardless of what's going on right now, the key thing that we can always do to empower ourselves is learn and educate so that we can understand what's going on in the market, so that we can make informed decisions. And ultimately, this is an example of so many things get taken away from us, but one of the only things that they can't take away at any point is knowledge. So it's, if anything, just inspired me to up my game.
And only in the darkness can you see the stars.
That is
I
a
think that's quite
beautiful
beautiful.
quote. Beautiful
Oh,
quote.
I can see everyone's eyes tearing up. God, it's so emotional, isn't it?
A nice way to finish is to say I've never felt more comfortable in a shit time in the world than working with you guys. So
Oh, stop it.
it's all about people you surround yourself with, right? And the energy that you absorb through strong women. So thank you.
Oh, back at you, Dani. Thanks for being in the Curve Weekly. Okay, sending love to everyone who's having a shitter of a time. And if you want to send a message of like support or love or frustration, we've got our Curve hotline, which you can send a voice note to. I thought it could be kind of nice to open that up for anyone that maybe feels like they don't have people to either vent to or share anything that you want to. So that's open for, we'll put that in the link of the show notes.
Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the money, biz and stock market news. And if you like what you heard, we would love a review, thank you.
Yes, we would love a review, but if you
Only
did
a good
hate
one.
it, please, don't leave one if you hate it. No, but in all seriousness, could you please leave a review? Because it really helps other people find our cute little podcast.
And we hope you have a good week and see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Sweet? Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Lol. See you next Tuesday. I mean Monday.
No, actually, though, new episodes out every Tuesday. Okay, quickly, The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.